say welcome everybody. This is our Lunch in the Garden program, and I'm happy to be here today with some special guests. My name is David Chinery, and I work here at Cornell Cooperative Extension in Rensselaer County, which is in Troy, New York. And we're going to have sort of a group discussion today for our program. We have Angie Tompkins, who is the educator, my counterpart from Schenectady County. We have Kathy Harder, who is a Schenectady County Master Gardener. And we have Don and Denise Maurer, who are Rensselaer County Master Gardeners. And we're going to be talking about, would you like to be a Master Gardener? So that's our subject for today. And that's really a fun and delightful subject to me because I have really enjoyed working with Master Gardeners since 1989 at Cooperative Extension. So for our attendees today, I welcome you. We have probably about 22 people attending, which is super. And I'll say that if you have a question, you can type it in the chat box. We'll try to keep an eye on the chat box as we go along. Certainly, we're encouraging people to ask questions. So we will try to keep an eye on that. I'm not the best person keeping an eye on it, but Angie, I know, will help me do that as we go along. So do you want to be a Master Gardener? Well, we have a couple things to show you. We're going to do a little short PowerPoint presentation. Then we're going to have a short video. And then we're going to have a little discussion. And that's where we're going to bring in especially Kathy and Don and Denise, who can tell us what it really is like to be a Master Gardener, rather than the educator perspective. So shall we get started?
Sounds good.
Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, so again, welcome everybody that's here today, and welcome to our guests. And let's see if we can make this work. All right. So this is just a little short PowerPoint talking about our Master Gardener program. Of course, my PowerPoint focuses on Rensselaer County because that's my county. But Angie can also tell us about what's going on in Schenectady County as we go along. So Angie will be chiming in, hopefully, and helping me out here. So our Master Gardener program, well, it is one of the premier programs, I like to say, of Cornell Cooperative Extension. And of course, Cornell Cooperative Extension is part of the land grant university system. We are part of Cornell, which is in Ithaca, New York. And we have programs in 4-H, which is youth development, nutrition, agriculture, and another of other items like lead safety prevention. Some counties have different programs than other counties, but we have been around for a long, long time, over 100 years. And we have the mission of bringing the university to the people, helping people solve problems in their communities, and really connecting with the public. And that's really one of the great parts about the Master Gardener program is that Master Gardeners are folks that live in the county, folks that live in the community, and they come to us for some training, and then they help us work in the world of horticulture and gardening and all the related things. So we're going to talk a little bit about what our program does and these wonderful people we call Master Gardeners. And of course, here's our famous Master Gardener rake logo, which I think dates back to the 1970s, because that's when the Master Gardener program started. In fact, the program started officially in Seattle, Washington, which is King County, in 1972. And there was an educator there, the Cooperative Extension agent, we used to be called agents back in those days, and he was getting all sorts of gardening questions. And the phone was ringing from dawn till dusk, because back in the 70s, we had that whole back to the land movement. People were very interested in growing food and becoming more in tune with the environment. So gardening really took off in the 70s. And this poor gentleman was just overwhelmed with requests for help. So he thought, gee, what if I got some community people to help me? I could train them, give them some information about horticulture, and they could help me with my extension program. And that happened in 1972. That was where the Master Gardener program really was born. And it really was something that took off like wildfire, because all across the country in the 1970s, Master Gardener programs started in cooperative extension offices. And our program here in Rensselaer County started in 1977. And it's one of the earliest ones in New York State. I don't know, do you know what year you started in Schenectady, Angie?
Yeah, I think we started about maybe 15 years after you did.
Oh, okay. So you guys are a little bit newer.
We are.
Yeah, yeah. Somehow we started early. There must have been some real innovators in Rensselaer County. I think Albany County also started in the late 70s. And we have, in fact, one Master Gardener from that original class who is still a volunteer. So that's really a pretty cool person to know, because he's been here since the very beginning. And really since then, we've had countless Master Gardeners serving countless people in the county. We don't have really great records from the early days. And then we have a lot of computer records that we can't access anymore because the computer's changed. But we know we've had, several hundred people trained as Master Gardeners over that time. And we've really impacted a couple thousand people directly every year. And it's kind of interesting that all across the country, there are Master Gardener programs. I pulled out some logos from some of the different programs. Master Gardeners volunteer 5.6 million hours annually across the United States and work in 49 states. I should know this, but I don't know what state doesn't have a program. I'm not sure which one it is. But if you become a Master Gardener, one of the things you'll know is that you are part of a giant network, and you will have counterparts all across the country. And in fact, there is a National Master Gardener Conference. And there are a couple other countries in the world that also have Master Gardeners. So you might go somewhere in the world and find somebody also in a far distant land who's a Master Gardener. But certainly you'll have counterparts all across the country. And that can be kind of fun because in the past, some of our folks have attended the national conference and gotten to know people from other states. And in fact, we've taken some trips. Some of our Master Gardeners went to the Pacific Northwest and met Master Gardeners on their trip. I went to Arizona with our Master Gardener group in 2018, and we had lunch with Master Gardeners. We got to tour Master Gardeners' gardens in Phoenix and Tucson. So that was kind of cool. So you will be a part of a bigger network and a bigger mission. Here's a picture of our 40th anniversary we had a few years ago, and we had a whole bunch of us got together. We actually got some of our alumni who we hadn't seen in a while and had a nice picnic. So it is really a great group of people to get to know. We have a lot of folks that stick around with us for a long time. Here, just before the pandemic hit back in February 2020, we had a little recognition at our meeting, and these were folks that had been in for 20 years or longer as Master Gardeners in Rensselaer County. So that was a nice accomplishment. And of course, we haven't had our meetings in person. We've been doing Zoom for quite a while, but we will be getting back to our in-person meetings as soon as possible. So in Rensselaer County, the Master Gardeners volunteer for about 3,000 hours or more. They answer questions on the phone and by email and at public, at places like the farmers market. They do a lot of teaching, and some of our Master Gardeners, especially Denise and Kathy, who are here today, have developed programs, and they go teach on their favorite subjects. We have a lot of folks working in gardens across the counties, and we'll talk about that. Of course, public speaking goes along with teaching, and we've learned how to do our webinars, which has really been a fun thing to do. And we have a few folks that like to write articles for our newsletters or maybe our fact sheets. And certainly we have alliances and connections with other groups in the county. And I'm sure Angie has this as well. We work with other community groups as well. And here's a picture of Irv, one of our Master Gardeners. And Irv happens to be the president of the Northeast Woodworkers Association. And we work at a garden called the Hospice Garden in Rensselaer. And the hospice garden had some furniture that was in poor condition. So Irv, who is a Master Gardener as well as a woodworker, got the woodworkers involved, and they refurbished the garden furniture for the hospice. So some of those connections are really cool when you've got 2 or 3 or 4 groups that get together, and there's this wonderful synergy and connectiveness, and things happen that normally wouldn't happen without our Master Gardener folks being around. Here's a picture of working in the office, and working in the office often entails talking on the phone, but believe it or not, I have no pictures of people talking on the phone, but here we are doing a mailing for our Spring Garden Day a couple of years ago when we had that in person. So Master Gardeners come in and do all sorts of things in the offices, help us with filing and printing and mailing and answering questions and all sorts of good stuff like that. But we do also go out in the community. Here, some of my folks are working at what was at the time an energy conservation fair we had. That was in Lansingburg, I think, that year. And we're also planting street trees. We work with City of Troy, DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, and Capital Roots. Those are all another group of organizations that work together to plant street trees in Troy and Rensselaer and some of the other cities in the area. So that's a great project. Of course, teaching is important. We have a lot of our Master Gardeners have a lot of experience in certain areas of horticulture that they particularly like. Doug, the gentleman kind of right in the middle of your screen there, gesturing, he is a great vegetable grower. Doug is actually our most veteran Master Gardener, I'll say, from 1977. And he is a tremendous vegetable grower, so he likes to share his knowledge about growing tomatoes especially, as well as other vegetables and those types of items. And we have a number of different folks specializing in different parts of horticulture, and they really have tremendous knowledge, much more than like Angie or I can have, because Angie and I have to kind of know a little bit about everything, and we don't always have time to specialize in certain things. So Master Gardeners are really great resources when they have a special interest or a special love in the world of gardening. This is a picture or a collage of our Spring Garden Day. And some of you who are here as attendees might have been to Spring Garden Day. This is a program we've been doing at the Tamaracks High School for a number of years. It's in March when everybody is really tired of winter. And we have a number of gardening classes. We have a pick a prize auction. We have a lunch. And it's a great day of celebrating gardening. So we usually get about 200 people that come to that. This year we did it on Zoom, which was fantastic. And we had a great support from the community on that. We also had about almost 200 people attend the Zoom. We have a keynote speaker. We have lots of other classes. And it's kind of a jump start to the gardening season. And folks get really excited about getting ready for the new year as far as the garden goes in March. We have a garden tour, and this is where we get some folks. Somehow we cajole them. We tell them it's a lot of fun. We say, hey, would you like to have your garden open and have 200 people walk through it on a Thursday afternoon? Sometimes that's a hard sell. Sometimes people are excited about that. But that's a great program because people can come see what their peers are doing and get to see what kind of gardens are possible in Schenectady County and Rensselaer County in the Capital District. We've seen all sorts of gardens tucked away behind homes that you might not know are there. And it's a great way for people to interact and learn. Of course, with the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. But hopefully that will come back in the future, maybe in a different form. I'm not sure what it will look like in the future, but that's a great opportunity as well. We work at Schenectady Fair, which of course happens at the end of August or beginning of September. And we have a question and answer booth there. And we sometimes do a garden display. Some years it's bigger than others. The elephant there was the year that we all grew an elephant ear plant. And I think we had 35 or 45 elephant ear plants there. And one of the principles of horticulture, I think, is that when you have a lot of something, it looks impressive. So when you have 35 elephant ears, people stop and they look at that. One year we grew dahlias, and we had about 35 or 40 dahlias. One year we all grew a garden in a milk crate, and that one with the number 6 on it, we had kind of a judging thing going on, and that was a lot of fun. So, you know, Schenectady Fair, people are there to see the animals and go on the rides and eat the questionable fair food, but we do try to get a little horticulture in there and get them excited about some of the things they can grow in their gardens. And then we do have our own gardens that we work at. One of those is at the 9/11 Memorial up in Lansingburg. There's a waterfront park there at 112th Street. We have a really super master gardener team that takes beautiful care of that little pocket park. I think it's really the nicest park in Rensselaer County. It's very well maintained. There's a memorial there for 9/11, and also some very nice plantings that they have developed over a number of years. We have a little garden we're working with in downtown Troy called Leslie's Garden, and this will be on the Troy Hidden Garden Tour, which is coming up on June 10th. And this little garden is a great neighborhood oasis. There's not a lot of green space right in that area except for Washington Park, but Washington Park is a private park. It's got a gate around it. You're not allowed in there. But Leslie's Garden is for everyone, and the Master Gardeners are working with Riverside Neighborhood and Troy Architecture Program, TAP, to maintain that garden. We also have a garden at the Hospice Center in Rensselaer. This garden is used by folks that are there for counseling or meetings, and it really beautifies this sort of suburban setting. And we've had a garden there for a number of years, and Master Gardeners have done, again, a great job with that one. And also we have a group that works at the Eddy with some of the residents there. We can call this Horticulture Therapy or gardening with multi-generations. They do projects during the winter, and they have some gardening space outside in the summertime. And they've had a really great time working with the residents there up in the Eddy at Troy. Some of the other things we do that are educational. Internally, we have a book club, and the Master Gardeners get together in the winter. Well, they don't get together, they stay home and they read their book, and then we get together and have a discussion. And it's been pretty cool because this has really introduced me to some books I might not have read before if we didn't do it this way. Things like The Hidden Life of Trees, where we're discovering trees have a lot more going on than we ever thought. They're communicating. The Well-Gardened Mind, that was our latest book we read, and all about the different benefits and uses of horticulture, how it really is emotionally and spiritually connecting to people, as well as just the physical gardening aspect. And then the book in the center, Nature's Best Hope and Bringing Home Nature, the Doug Tallamy books, which have really raised everybody's awareness of native species and pollinators and the importance of those factors. We also have one other garden, the Robert C. Parker School Demonstration Garden over in North Greenbush, where we have a number of theme gardens that we work on all season long. We have a gazebo where we have classes in the summertime, and we have a vegetable garden, a pollinator garden, a prairie garden, a herb garden, a number of other gardens that we spend a lot of time on and we really work on and look pretty nice, I have to say. We also had the first green roof in Rensselaer County before RPI had their green roof. And it's on our garden shed, and here's Meg and Bob up on the roof working on the green roof. So don't tell our insurance company we're on a ladder, but that's what we do. And here we are cleaning up in the fall, and there's some summer programs in the evening. And we can get quite a crowd of people. These programs are free and they're for the public, so it's a nice thing to do for the community. Here was our tomato tasting we did in 2019. I think we had, if I remember right, I think we had 60 types of tomatoes show up, and people could taste them and decide which they wanted to grow the next year. We go on some nice field trips and have educational opportunities. We've been to a lot of the gardens in the region. We've been to Maine, Arizona, Pacific Northwest. There's a group going to Washington, D.C. coming up. There's talk of going to Missouri Botanical Garden. So those are all fun things. And we also do continuing education closer to home. And we work with our counterpart folks in Albany and Schenectady as well, and we offer classes in the winter. This was an insect identification class. We can also be wild and crazy, okay? We do have a couple, 1 or 2 parties during the year. Some of our people like to wear funny hats. We'd like to have dinner once in a while. So it does have a social aspect as well. You'll meet really nice people in this program, I have to say. The salt of the earth would be the way I would describe them. They're just wonderful folks. So how can I become a master gardener? Well, as I've said, the 3 counties work together. Albany, Schenectady, and Rensselaer have a long tradition of working together as the 3 counties. And typically what usually happens is that you will volunteer with the county you live in. So if you're from Rensselaer County, you'll work with our group. If you're Schenectady, you'll work with Angie's group. And Carol Henry, who is the educator in Albany, does a really great job with the Albany group. So we all kind of work together as a team, and we also work separately. We're going to be training our new class starting in September and running through December of 2021. So that's why we're here today, to get folks excited about potentially joining in and coming to the training session. So we're looking for people now. Now is the time to come forward and submit your application. So if anybody would like to be considered for an interview, which is not a huge hurdle. I mean, the interviews are kind of informal and laid back. Please let us know and we'll send you the application materials. Okay. And again, we usually have our classes over in Voorheesville. The office in Albany County, which is located at 24 Martin Road in Voorheesville, they have a big classroom, bigger than Rensselaer County has and bigger than Schenectady County has. So we get the 3 counties together in Voorheesville and have our sessions. And there's enough room for everybody to fit in there. But of course, we've had this little thing called the pandemic. And with the pandemic, we've had to resort to using Zoom. So this year, we're planning our trainings on Zoom, but we don't know. We might be able to have our trainings in person. The world keeps changing. If things keep getting better and better, we may be back to doing our classes in Voorheesville. At this moment, I really can't tell you, but we are planning on having the training either on Zoom or in person in Voorheesville. It's just going to be sort of a matter of kind of like a lot with the pandemic, a wait and see, and then we can proceed when the time comes that we have to make a decision. Our dates are going to be on Thursdays from September 9 to December 9. And we have a lot of great speakers, educators such as Angie and Carol and I. Some master gardeners will come help us to, teach, some Cornell faculty folks, and some green industry folks that work in the world of horticulture. And then the class will culminate in an action project. And the action project last year was each new master gardener candidate gave a little speech. They gave a little presentation. They did a PowerPoint or they did a talk. And we used to have an exam, and the exam was this multiple choice monster of an exam, blah, blah, blah. Nobody liked it. So we went and we created this action project. So you can talk about whatever you like. We had people talk about all sorts of different things in their action project. I remember we had a program on cauliflower, how to grow cauliflower. I didn't know that, but it was a great project. So you can pick anything for your action project. The new trainees in Rensselaer County will work for 50 hours or volunteer for 50 hours in each of the first 2 years, and then volunteer for about 30 hours after that. And each county in that respect is a little different. I think Albany is a little bit different than us, and Schenectady is a little different than that. And in Rensselaer County, we're especially looking for people that want to get dirty and work in some of those gardens I showed you, or want to be speakers and want to talk to the public in whatever format they like. It doesn't have to be PowerPoint. We can certainly do other things than PowerPoint. So Angie, what else should I mention here?
Well, I think you did a great job of covering all the things that our Master Gardener volunteers traditionally do. And I think across the 3 counties, it's really pretty similar. Just some of our partners might be a little bit different. I think, one of the things in Schenectady County that we train each volunteer to do, and I know you do in Rensselaer and Albany as well, is, as you mentioned earlier, the phone line. So in Schenectady County, we have the Master Gardener phone hotline. Depending on the time of year, it could be open 5 or 2 days a week. With what's happened over the last year, we've slimmed it back to 2 days a week that our Master Gardener volunteers cover the phone lines. But that's really a need, I think, in our county and probably in the other 2 counties as well. We have members of the community that call in and ask gardening questions. They will send emails to us. They might be dropping off soil to be tested, or they want to have a plant sample looked at. So that's really definitely a need in Schenectady County for help. And I would imagine once the offices start to reopen, we'll have Master Gardener volunteers in person again, helping out with that.
Yeah, there's always questions.
There sure is.
Especially this time of the year. Folks get outside and they start finding stuff and having questions. We've got already 3 or 4 questions this week about carpenter bees. They seem to be the topic of concern. And of course, Japanese knotweed. So we learned certain problems come along at certain times of the year, and people see certain things over and over. And then we get some weird ones too, which are really fun.
Sure.
Good. Well, here's Angie. I saw this picture of you off the internet this morning. So here's Angie's contact information. You want to talk to us about how they can get in touch with you, Angie?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so if you live in Schenectady County and you're interested in becoming a Master Gardener volunteer, or I know there's some certain circumstances where we have some people that are very close to Schenectady County, but might be in Albany County, and you have been encouraged by the Albany County Master Gardener Coordinator, Carol, to contact me, that's fine as well. But yeah, if you want to just call or send an email, that would be great if you're interested in the program. And then I will follow up with making sure to get you an application and set up a time where we can meet and talk a little bit more about what we do specifically in Schenectady County.
Okay, so that's Angie in Schenectady County.
Thanks.
And in Rensselaer County, folks can speak to me, David. Our phone number, of course, is 518-272-4210, or you can give me an email at dhc3@cornell.edu. And, we'd love to hear from folks. And this is kind of the time to do the applications. We're looking for applications to be in by the very beginning of July. Is that about what you're thinking too, Angie?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Yeah. So in the next, what's that, about 5-6 weeks, we're trying to round up everybody and get the word out that this is the time to become a Master Gardener. So hopefully that will have answered some folks' questions. I think I'll pause my sharing there, or I'll stop my sharing, I guess. Do we have any questions in the chat box we should answer maybe?
We do. Just a couple of questions. Unfortunately, one of our participants is having trouble hearing. They had a buzzing noise, so hopefully that's cleared up. There is a question about volunteer hours. Do volunteer hours count towards community initiatives we're already involved with, or is the activity specified by the group? That's a really good question. And I think it maybe would depend on each county. But I know, like in Schenectady County, we've had some Master Gardener volunteers that have already been involved in some community projects that are related to gardening and horticulture. And we have, after sort of chatting a little bit about it, deciding that it was really a good fit, those hours were able to be counted towards their Master Gardener volunteer hours, because it was a community-based project that was related to our program.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of those things we kind of talk about on a case-by-case basis, but we're pretty flexible about that, especially if it's a project that really is out there benefiting the community. We'd like to support those.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then we have a couple other questions, a couple cost. Yes. Is there a cost associated with becoming a master gardener? So there is a cost associated with it. There is a $300 fee to take the training, and the training fee covers all of our expenses that are related to some materials that we purchase for you, which includes like a soil test kit. Typically we do a hand lens, some printed materials. Sometimes we do a couple of books, like a weed ID book, just some materials that we think would be really helpful for you to have during training. So that helps to cover the cost of the materials. Some of the guest speakers or presenters that we do pay a small fee to help us out with. And if we have any other fees associated with like renting, like this year, we're going to be renting an outdoor pavilion to do an in-person training where we'll be outside and have a lot of space. So there's some fees that are tied into things like that. So the $300 fee does help to cover our costs for those sort of things. And that would be something we would collect once you fill out an application and have a small interview, and then we decide if it's a good fit, and then you would pay the fee after that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, let's see. We do have another question. Can you talk about the two different Master Gardener training options, full course versus volunteer course, and pricing? Right. So I think, Cynthia, what you're getting at with that question is we have in the past put on the Master Gardener volunteer training. And if you, let's say, want to take the course for the knowledge, maybe you're interested in getting a job in horticulture, or you really have your own interests in obtaining the knowledge that's given at the volunteer training, but you don't want to be a volunteer, we used to offer that as an option. And it was a little bit more expensive to take the training if you weren't going to be a volunteer after. But David, I think this year we've decided we're really only offering the training for individuals who are going to pursue it as a volunteer program, correct?
Yeah, I think that's where we're going, because we're kind of concerned about space limitations. If we in fact do the program live or in person, I guess we would say, in Voorheesville, we still may have restrictions on how many people we can put in the room. It's a fairly large room, but if we have to space people 6 feet apart, then we're going to have less people. So we're kind of wondering which way to go on this. So at this point, we're thinking of just taking people that really want to be volunteers and stick with the core mission there.
All right, great. So hopefully that answered her question. And then William wants to know, could you expand on the Master Gardener Action Plan? Some more examples. Can people combine on projects? So great question, Bill. Yes, we have actually had Master Gardener trainees pair up or even in groups of 3 to work on an action project together. Some people did do it on their own, and some people did do it as a group. So I'm trying to think of some examples. I remember one individual in Schenectady County, actually 2 individuals partnered together, and they did a really short presentation on how to grow mushrooms off of a log. So they did kind of like a small presentation, hands-on, brought some materials in and demonstrated how you could grow mushrooms on a log.
I remember that one. Now that you say that, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
It was really great because we learned all sorts of stuff that day. So yeah, I think we're pretty open on the action project, and it doesn't have to be, a master's thesis. It can be, a short talk on whatever you like to do in gardening. So we had all sorts of different topics covered. Somebody even did lawn care. One of my master gardeners did lawn care, And I was shocked because nobody likes lawn care except me. So, but she was up there talking about taking care of her lawn. So I made a breakthrough there, I guess.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, so really it's a topic of your choice, and it can be something where you do like you use PowerPoint, or it can just be like a hands-on presentation. I remember another one I watched that stuck in my mind was somebody did a presentation on how to kind of make like a bird garden, how to attract birds to your garden. That was really neat. They talked about habitat and the different plants that you could plant in a bird garden. So it's really, I like to say that it's something, if you have a topic that you've been interested in learning more about, maybe you want to, research that and then do a presentation on that topic, or maybe it's a topic that you already are very knowledgeable on and you want to share that information with others.
Sounds good.
Somebody would like to know, are the classes 8-hour long classes on Thursdays? Good question.
Oh, I forgot what our time is, but it's not an 8-hour day. I think we have a morning session and an afternoon session. And in person, we would be starting at probably 9:30 and going till about 3, I think, at the latest. And I think if we were going to do Zoom, it was a little shorter than that because we can't sit for that long. But it's not an 8-hour day, and there's a lunch break in between. I forget what our schedule is exactly.
I have a copy of the schedule that we've been working on, David and Carol Henry and myself, and it looks like right now, I mean, it's been a little challenging to figure out how to make this work, not knowing what things were going to look like in September. But as of now, we have a combination of some in-person coursework as well as some Zoom presentations. And for the most part, if we were to do like a Zoom presentation, it looks like we have it scheduled for from about 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then a lunch break, and then starting back at 12:30 and ending by 2:30.
Right.
We also have a sort of, I guess you could call it a field day or a field trip scheduled for September 23rd, which is going to be kind of an all-day in-person event in Central Park in Schenectady, where we will be utilizing the pavilion there as our home base, but we're going to have multiple classes that we're going to be running at the park that day. So primarily it looks like Thursdays are the days, if you're interested, would be the days you have to block your schedule out for, and mid-morning through 2:30 to 3 in the afternoon.
Sounds good.
And let me just check and see if we have any more questions. Somebody would like to know, do I need to have a garden already to take the course?
No, not at all. We encourage all sorts of people to apply, and you don't have to own a garden. You don't have to, all really you need is your interest. You don't have to own anything or be anywhere in particular. So that's fine.
Great. And another individual brought up a good question. They want to know if they're not able to meet all the volunteer hours, what would happen, if they can't manage to get all their hours in. Yeah, so one of the things I like to kind of think about with the volunteers in Schenectady County is we try to offer a lot of different volunteer opportunities at different times of the day and days of the week. So there are things that people can do from home. They can help to answer emails that come in, email inquiries. They can do that at home in the evening. We definitely have some weekend volunteer opportunities as well as opportunities during the week. So we try to make it flexible so that if you are a Master Gardener volunteer and you're trying to get those 50 hours in that year, that you have multiple opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. There's always, we have our gardens that we work on, And if somebody has an hour or two on a Saturday, they can go help take care of the pollinator garden, you know, or a Sunday morning or a Thursday night. So it is pretty flexible in that way. Okay, so
Great.
can we see your video next, Angie?
You sure can. All right. Well, there was one more question at the end here. Can we suggest volunteer opportunities for people to fulfill their hours on?
Well, you know, we have our core projects that we need to work on. So that's what we're really interested in, is finding people that want to fit into those. But we're always open to other things. So I guess the answer is, you know, maybe. Because we have certain things that we really have to do. We have commitments to our gardens. We have commitments to Spring Garden Day, plant sales, you know, some of the other projects. So we really are looking for people that are interested in those. And it's not, you know, we take on new things very carefully because we all have limited time. But I wouldn't say no necessarily. So that's just something we would have to think about and talk about.
Great. And do you have an idea of how competitive the interview process will be?
Oh, wow. I guess that depends on how many people fill out that form. You know, in the past, we've had situations where we couldn't take everybody just because we had so many people apply. And we've had years where we had fewer people apply and we took everybody that applied. So it really depends on, I guess, the numbers.
Great.